Welcome to BMS342. My name is Peter Anderson and I'm your subject coordinator. In the subject you'll learn about the different types of food found in Indigenous cultures, and you get to compare them in energy and nutritional value to that of a Western diet. You'll also discover aspects of culture that are intertwined with diet, so quite often everyone, even so-called Western diet people, have beliefs that are intertwined with different types of food, and we tease some of that apart in this subject. So the next thing you're probably wondering is, well, what do I have to do to complete this subject? And the first thing that I would like you to do is to open the subject outliner and have a look at the assessment items. And I'm just going to talk briefly about the assessment items now, so you're prepared for so you know what you need to do for this subject. That's what I do anyway. First thing I do when I'm studying distance mode is see what I need to do. So there are 5 assessment items. The first type of assessment item is called a blog. There are 3 blogs and there are 3 modules to read through. So at the end of each of the 3 modules you have a blog. So module 1, blog 1, module 2, blog 2, module 3, blog 3. They're called reflective blogs because not only do you have to write answers to preset questions that I'll put in there, but you also have to look at someone else's blog or some other people's blogs and compare your answers with what somebody else has got. So in some case there may only be one correct answer and you may all come to the view of the same answer. That's fine. And in other cases there may be alternative points of view which you can discuss, compare and contrast. And so that's the reflective part. Often by looking at what other people have written we can come to a different point of view ourselves. Okay, so that's the blogs for you, and so the next thing to do within the blogs is to look at how each of those blogs is going to be marked. So they're all marked the same way. There's a marking rubric in the subject outline, and I'd like you to look at that marking rubric for each assessment item. Marking rubric does what's called in teaching circles as provides a handrail for you. So in other words, it's taken a reasonable amount of time to develop that marking rubric, and it's not just for me to say, oh, there we go, we've got a pass there, this person's got a credit. It's designed to give you help to get you to the standard you want to get. So if you only have enough time and you only have the inclination to get to pass level, then you should be looking at and seeing and make sure that you tick all the boxes in the pass level criterion. Or another way of looking at it is make sure you don't fall to the fail level. Likewise, if you've got more time and more inclination and you want to get up to high distinction level, you can also pick that up in the marking rubric. So often high distinction looks at all sorts of finicky things with grammar, spelling, everything down to the last sentence construction, and it can take a lot longer to get to high distinction standard. Okay, so that's the blogs for modules 1, 2 and 3. So content is assessed by blogs. So now we come to the next assessment items. Major assessment item is assessment item 4, worth 40% of the value of the marks for this subject. And that's an essay, Indigenous versus Western diet. And I'll probably do a short tutorial or an online tutorial during the session about this assessment item. But in the meantime, it will really do well to read through it, read through what the constraints are, and start thinking about what traditional diet you would like to study, and then make sure that you can actually reference that to scholarly articles. So there is a bit of an emphasis in this subject on referencing back to academic and scholarly articles and avoiding Googling your favourite website. So websites won't get you a pass level in this subject. And we'll talk about how to do the scholarly part of research. I don't think you'll find it onerous at all. Okay, so assessment item 4 is an essay. It's only 1,500 words plus figures, tables and references. So in other words, what you write is important, and what you provide as figures and tables is going to be really important because it's not a long essay. Alright, so start thinking about an Indigenous culture that you could study. And then the final assessment item is an oral presentation on a medicinal food or on medicinal foods from a culture of your choice. So it's only a 10-minute oral presentation. You will need PowerPoint, Microsoft PowerPoint, which is something you're expected to have to be studying at Charles Sturt. And you will need to be able to use that. So if you don't, either give me a call or give the library a call. It's not particularly difficult, and the level you need to use it at is not onerous. So I did have some students last year actually call me up and just about cry on the phone because they'd never opened PowerPoint before. If that's you, call early. It won't be heartbreaking. You'll be able to do it, no worries at all. And so one of the tricky parts with the oral presentation is, so you don't have to do a video like I'm doing now. You just have to be able to record a PowerPoint with a voiceover. So you can do the voiceover directly into PowerPoint. PowerPoint has a facility for that, and you may need to get yourself a $20 Logitech USB headset, microphone headset, if you want to do a decent recording, rather than just speak straight into the built-in microphone, which is usually quite poor. I hope you find this is a really rewarding, enriching subject that really makes you start to think about how people with Western diets, really is it the other cereals, for instance, that we have in our Western diets, particularly refined cereals that we put into white flours and things like that. Do we fortify them with folic acid because really in our ancestral state we were eating much more green stuff? And before we had big societies, I think our diets were very different, and so some of the reasons we need to fortify foods, the big ones being things like iron, folic acid, are potentially because we've changed our diet massively as time has gone by and as civilizations have grown. So the grains in particular are the cultural superfoods that people like to talk about and use for advertising now, but they're the cultural superfoods mostly that have driven civilizations and have stopped us from dying during famines and winter and war. Alright, with that I'll leave it to you to get stuck into Module 1 and to review the assessment items.